Daniel. So this video is going to be like a minute because it's windy. You might not even be able to hear me. I don't know because of the sound, but I am in windy, cold Burr, Iowa. So I'm at a Democrat Grange Establishment Expo, Iowa Expo, and it is in Boon, Iowa. So I couldn't even find a gas station around here, honestly. But I guess this is a thing to come to. So Andrew will be here, and I will be, taking video of every moment. Take care. So I didn't realize that other candidates for president would be represented at this dinner. So to my surprise, I ran into another candidate running for president, Tulsi Gabbard. And so I have her full speech here as part of this video. And I have the other candidates represented by surrogates, meaning other people that are speaking for them because they weren't able to be there. I have another video with them, or that's coming next. So Tulsi Gabbard, I've seen videos of her, and I wasn't overly impressed because she talks specifically about foreign policy, and she does seem to have a good grasp of foreign policy and is a veteran. But I feel like that is just one aspect of what needs to be done for this country, that we need to funnel the industrial complex, military industrial complex funds into America instead of just wasteful spending on war and military spending in general. But of course, I feel like Andrew Yang has fresh ideas and more ideas for getting this country back to what we need, or moving us forward into what we need for America. So this is her full speech with Andrew Yang's speech first. So enjoy.
I'd like to welcome you all to the Boone County Democrats Democracy Ball. My name is Tim Winter. I'm the chair of the Boone County Democrats and your MC for this evening. We have apple crisp and dessert, so anytime you would like to walk up and just go get it, that's fine. We're going to be very informal here, so just help yourself. There's also a vegan option as well. Before I introduce our first speaker, I would just like to say what an honor it has been to work with this fine group of wonderful people here in Boone County. This is our third Democracy Ball, and we have tagged it The Real Deal 2020. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means different things to different people. But for me, it reminds me of some great leaders of our past, like Teddy Roosevelt and Winston Churchill. Something we don't currently have in the highest offices of our great land right now. I also like those two statesmen. Maybe because they were short, stocky, and kind of wore pointy glasses. But more likely it's because they were the real deal of their time. And if you will allow me to channel some Churchill, I would like it to be known here, and let it be known tonight, that on November 3rd of the year 2020, we will be sending a new hope, a new direction, a new ambassador to represent us with dignity. This person will show the whole world the goodness of America, the resolve of our democratic institutions, the restoration of our character, and the history of our strength of diversity. This person will not be building walls. This person will be building bridges. Tonight, we have many great candidates for the President of the United States. We have people who will stand up for tyranny, to injustice, to voluntary divisiveness. Because here tonight, we have, for the year 2020, the real deal.
The real deal right
Our
over
first
there.
speaker tonight
Real deal.
is entrepreneur
Okay.
Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang is the founder and CEO for Venture for America, a fellowship program that places top college graduates in startups for 2 years in emerging U.S. cities to generate job growth and train the next generation of entrepreneurs. Andrew founded Venture for America in 2011 with the mission to revitalize American cities and communities through entrepreneurship, enable our best and brightest to create new opportunities for themselves and for others, restore the culture of achievement to include value creation, risk and reward, and the common good. Andrew has worked in startups and early stage growth companies as a founder and executive for more than 12 years. He was the CEO and president of Manhattan GMAT, a test preparation company that was acquired by the Washington Post in 2009. He has also served as the co-founder of an internet company and executive of a healthcare software startup. Andrew was named a champion of change and presidential ambassador for global entrepreneurship by the White House for his work with Venture of America and one of the Fast Company's 100 most creative people in business. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Andrew Yang.
Hello everyone, it's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for that warm introduction. So here's something that Tim did not know about me. I am Teddy Roosevelt's great-great-granddaughter's godfather. How do you eat like that? That's what happens if you go to a snooty New England prep school. Hello everyone, I'm Andrew Yang. I'm running for president as a Democrat in 2020. And as Tim described, I am not a career politician, though I have been a Democrat for decades. And I'm with you all because there's a huge problem that Tim expressed, which is that Donald Trump is our president, and he won in 2016. And the question that's been on your minds for the last couple of years, the question on many millions of Americans' minds, has been how the heck did that happen? How did he win? How did he win in 2016? And how did he win here in Iowa by almost 10 points? And he didn't just win here in Iowa, he won in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Missouri, even Wisconsin. Some states that people did not think were going to be contested in 2016. Now the explanations, I think someone shouted out Russia. Who is that? Oh, it's fine. Because I think that the major explanations that people have on offer, if you turn on the cable news channels, go something like Russia, the FBI, Facebook, racism, in some combination. And I believe that's actually missing the point. Because I'm a numbers person, and the numbers tell a different story. What the numbers tell us is that the reason why Donald Trump won Iowa by almost 10 points and is our president today is that we'd automated away 4 million manufacturing jobs in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Missouri, and 40,000 right here in Iowa. And if you dig into the numbers, you see that there's a straight line up in between the number of industrial robots that were brought into a voting area and the movement to Donald Trump. We are in the third inning of the greatest economic and technological transformation in the history of our country, what experts are calling the fourth industrial revolution. And Donald Trump is a symptom, he's a manifestation of this economic shift. And unfortunately, the economic shift is about to accelerate and take off. How many of you have noticed stores closing around where you live? And why are those stores closing? Amazon. That's right. It's a one-word answer, Amazon. So Amazon is sucking up $20 billion in commerce every year from your communities, and it is now pushing 30% of your stores and malls to close. What is the most common job in Iowa and in the American economy? Working in retail. The average retail worker is a 39-year-old woman making between $10 and $11 an hour. So if 30% of the malls and stores close, then what happens to those jobs? What happens to those retail workers? No one knows, really. How much did Amazon pay in federal taxes last year? Zero. So think about what's happening in your communities. Amazon's sucking the economic vitality out, and you are getting zero. You've lost 12,000 retail jobs already in this state, and you're going to lose many thousands more. I was just in Iowa 80, the country's largest truck stop in Davenport, Iowa. And it proudly says, biggest truck stop in the country, 5,000 people stop there every day. Now, my friends in California are working on trucks that can drive themselves. And why are they doing that? For the money, yeah. $168 billion a year in financial incentives if they can successfully get rid of the truck drivers. Now here in Iowa, being a truck driver is one of the most common jobs, as it is in 28 other states. There are 3.5 million Americans who presently drive a truck for a living. 94% men, average age 49, they make about $46,000 a year, many make more. They work very, very hard, it's hard on their bodies, they're away from their families for 4 days a week. But they're up against $168 billion a year in financial incentives. And my friends in Silicon Valley tell me that we are 5 to 10 years away from trucks that can drive themselves. So reflect on what's happened here. You've started losing manufacturing jobs, Donald Trump wins. You're now going to lose retail jobs. Eventually you're going to lose the truck driving jobs. You're going to lose call center jobs because the call center jobs are going to get taken over by technology. Now, I'm going to walk through this because I think it's something we can all relate to. When you call a company right now, when you get the automated service, you probably do what I do, which is you pound 0 and say human, human, human until you get a human, right? We all do that. Because the software is really irritating. But we're about 3 years away from the software being excellent, being indistinguishable from a human. Where when you call that company, it's going to sound like this. Hello, Andrew, how are you? How are you doing? What can I do for you? And then you'll tell it, and then they'll do it, and then they'll say that was delightful. You might not even realize it was software. We're about 3 years away from that happening, and being a call center worker is one of the most common jobs in this state. You all, in many ways, are the front lines of this economic shift. It is tearing our communities apart. It is putting most of our fellow Americans into a mindset of scarcity, which is they're not sure what their future looks like. They have this constant set of economic threat because 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, 57% can't afford an unexpected $500 bill, and things are about to speed up. Now this is what I was seeing in 2017. I was getting medals and awards for starting an organization, a nonprofit. How many of you all work in nonprofits? Many of you. And I have to say, one reason I'm so thrilled to be here with you all today is that this group of people has the same spirit that I see in nonprofits, where there are people that come together. You all are like this noble rebel army. You know what I mean? And like you feel like you're fighting uphill here in Boone County, because Boone County is like a little redder than you want it to be. But you come together and you fight all the same. You come together and you do what you think is right. Now, I did what I thought was right. In 2011, when I quit my job, I put my own money down and I said, we need to try and build businesses around the country. And this is what Tim described with Venture for America. I told my wife, hey baby, quitting my job, time to do something to try and get the country going in the right direction. And I got a lot of recognition for helping create several thousand jobs around the country. And I realized that my work was like pouring water into a bathtub that has a giant hole ripped in the bottom. And the hole in the bathtub brought us Donald Trump, and it's going to bring us much worse. But the reason I'm so excited to be here with you all is that you all, and it does not feel like it, because I know you feel like the rebel army, but you all have the future of the country in your hands. The reason why there are two presidential candidates here with you tonight, and I know Tulsi and Eric, and they're some of the best people I know, the reason why we're all with you here tonight is because you have this incredible power to shape the future of this country. Now, I'm a numbers guy. Do you want to know how many Californians each of you is worth? You're worth about 1,000 Californians each. So to the extent that there are like 120 people, 150 people in this room, I see 150,000 Californians. But it really does not take that many Iowans to come together and move the country in a direction. It's magical. This is one of the only places where democracy actually works the way it's intended. If you go to the rest of the country and you say, hey, you need to vote for something different, a lot of them are in despair because they'll feel that their vote does not matter. They see a set of pipes clogged with money and they feel like their vote won't make a difference. And for the most part, they're right. If they're in California or a lot of other places, their vote really does not make a difference. But here in Iowa, you all do make an enormous difference. That's why I'm here, that's why Tulsi's here, that's why Eric's going to be here in a minute. You all have this power, though it doesn't always feel like it. So what am I asking you to use that power for? What is this vision of an economy that would actually work for us, the citizens of this country, in a time of historic change? Raise your hand if you actually have heard about me in the campaign. Oh, good. It's exciting. So if you've heard about me in the campaign, what you've heard is this. There's an Asian man running for president who wants to give everyone $1,000 a month. That's right? And those three things are true. So when you first heard this $1,000 a month, you thought, that sounds like a gimmick, that sounds too good to be true, like, is this serious? And it's okay that you thought that. But then, if you dig into our country's history, you'll see it's as old an idea as the country itself. Thomas Paine was for this, the founding of the country, called it the citizens' dividend. Martin Luther King, whose birthday we celebrate every year, championed this in 1967, called it a guaranteed minimum income, and was fighting for it the year he was killed and assassinated in 1968. Milton Friedman and 1,000 economists signed a study saying this would be tremendous for America, so much so that it passed the U.S. House of Representatives twice in 1971. It was called the Family Assistance Plan under Richard Nixon. And then 11 years later, one state passed a dividend where now everyone in that state receives between $1,000 and $2,000 a year, no questions asked. And what state is that? Alaska. And how do they fund it? Oil. And what is the oil of the 21st century? Did someone say marijuana over here? I will amend my answer. It is marijuana and technology. So you're all here, and you each paid more in federal taxes than Amazon, a $1 trillion tech company, did last year. And Amazon's not alone. The biggest winners from artificial intelligence and all this new technology are experts at not paying taxes, and you're all going to look around your community saying, like, where did it all go? And so this $1,000 a month dividend, we have the money, we put it in your hands. After I'm president, thanks to you all, thank you, Boon County. After I'm president and this dividend comes into your hands, where are you going to spend it? Where does that money go? So I heard the 31 things. But a lot of the money is going to stay right here in your community, am I right? It's going to go into tutoring for your kids and car repairs you've been putting off and trips to the hardware store and healthcare bills and things that happen right here in your community. A little bit of it's going to float up to Jeff Bezos and Amazon. You'll buy an extra toaster every once in a while on Amazon. But most of the money will be right here. It will create 40,000 new jobs here in Iowa. And it will make your Main Street economy much stronger, much more robust. It'll probably keep many stores open that would have closed in the absence of the dividend. So this is what I call the trickle-up economy, from people and families and communities up. And this is what you can make a reality. Now, the Democratic Party talks about empowering women, which obviously we should. But I'm going to suggest to you all that there are thousands of women here in Iowa and millions around the country that are in exploitative or abusive jobs and situations that would be improved upon if they were getting $1,000 a month. And that the Democratic Party can either talk about empowering women or we can do something about it. And I say we do something about it. So this is the freedom dividend. It's been with us since the founding of the country. It's been overdue for decades, and we need to make it a reality right now. If we put the freedom dividend in place, it will make our children and families stronger. It will make us healthier, mentally healthier. It will rejuvenate our neighborhood economies, and will give your children, frankly, a path forward and a reason to stay. Because I know many of your children right now feel like they have to leave in order to access better opportunities. And you are not the only community that feels that way. Many communities around the country feel that way. The tides are just speeding up. The waves are going to get bigger. So this is the trickle-up economy. This is the vision that I want you all to help share with the rest of the country in 2020. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about my family, and they're actually with me here in Iowa. They're in Des Moines right now. We just went to the Science Center. You guys are probably kids know that. And my wife is at home with our 2 boys, one of whom is autistic. And what is her work valued at in GDP? 0. What is the market value of her work at?
80,000.
The market also values work at 0. It's like right now, if you're home with the family, then everyone treats you as if you're not working. Even though we know that's perverse, we know that she's doing some of the most important, challenging, and vital work in our society. And so what we have to do is we have to start pointing our economy in this direction. How many of you got excited about GDP when you woke up this morning? How many of you were like, I'm going to make a really big contribution today? Aside from Tim. And Davey, maybe you guys think that way. So the problem with GDP is that it's going to go up and up even as more Americans get left behind. Our life expectancy has declined for the last 3 years because of a surge in drug overdoses and suicides. Self-driving and stress. Self-driving trucks will be tremendous for GDP, but they're going to be terrible for Iowans and terrible for Americans. If you have the wrong measurements, then you will never make progress. So one of the things I will do as president, one of the first things, is I will update GDP for the 21st century. And I will make it things that we will actually be excited about as a people. So what would excite you if GDP does not get you revved up in the morning?
Healthcare.
Health and life expectancy. That would be number 1. Childhood success and education rate. That would be 2. How about mental health and freedom from substance abuse?
Yeah.
How about clean air and clean water? We could actually make these the new, how about the proportion of elderly Americans who can retire in quality circumstances? Income and affordability, these could be the new GDP, the new measurements for the economy, and this is what I will do as president. I will update our measurements to the 21st century, and then I will present them all to you every year at the State of the Union. I'm going to be the first president to use a PowerPoint every year. So these are the problems of the 21st century, and this is why I'm running. Now, Donald Trump, like it or not, he's our president today because he got a lot of the problems right. You went around to your communities and other communities, and he said there are massive problems. And then the Democratic response in 2016 was, no, actually, things are great. And we lost. We have to solve the problems that got Donald Trump elected in the first place. He got the problems right, but his solutions are the exact opposite of what we need. His solutions were build a wall, turn the clock backwards, bring the jobs back, and we need to do the exact opposite. We need to turn the clock forward. We need to accelerate and evolve both our economy and society. And I am the man to beat Donald Trump in 2020 because the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math. Thank you very much for joining me.
Mr. Andrew Yang, everyone. Thank you very much, Andrew. Next, I'd like to introduce Congressman Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi spent her life growing up in beautiful Hawaii. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Hawaii? How should I be pronouncing it? Hawaii? As a teenager, she co-founded an environmental nonprofit called Healthy Hawaii Coalition, focused on educating children about protecting Hawaii environment. Forgive me, I'm trying to practice to make sure I pronounce that correctly. She was an advocate for environmental policy. Tulsi was elected to the Hawaii State Legislature in 2002 when she was just 21 years old, becoming the youngest person ever elected in the state. A year later, she joined the Hawaii Army National Guard to serve and also her country. In 2004, she volunteered to deploy with her fellow soldiers, becoming the first state official to voluntarily step down from public office to serve in a war zone. Tulsi served 2 tours of duty in the Middle East, and she continues her service as a major in the Army National Guard. Now, in her 4th term in Congress, Tulsi brings with her a broad range of real-world experience, a storehouse of personal strength, and tested leadership as she represents the people of Hawaii and our nation in Congress. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to Representative Tulsi Gabbard.
Aloha. I think Tim has now become an expert on how to pronounce Hawaii. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate the care.
Thank you for the tutorial.
It's great to be here with all of you here tonight in Boone. I want to say thank you, first of all, before I share a few words, because you all did something pretty incredible in 2018. You had a great candidate in JD, and you made history in coming so close to defeating Steve King. And the way that you did that is something that can serve as a tutorial for the rest of the country. How you reach out to people, how you go beyond the hyper-partisanship, and how you connect with people around the issues that they care about. How you listen to their concerns, and you bring forward actual solutions. A lot of us are watching this race very closely. I think JD was a great candidate, and he could not have done what he did without the hard work of all of you. So thank you for your activism and your engagement, and you're making it happen. This is how we win these elections. Yes, give yourselves a round of applause. This is how we win these elections. This is how we bring about the kind of change that we need to see. It's in rooms like this, and it's in rooms like this where I have hope. I have hope during a time that can so often seem so dark and discouraging. Every time we turn on the cable news, or you scroll through Twitter, or you flip through the headlines, there's not a lot of good stories. Not a lot of good stories coming out of Washington these days. But I have hope because it is through the hearts and the voices of the actions of people like you that we can bring about the kind of change we need to see in Washington. Now, yes, there have been a lot of destructive policies put forward by this administration. Policies that have caused a lot of harm and suffering for people all across this country. That's not disputed. The fact is, though, that it's important for us to recognize that there are problems that led to Trump getting elected in 2016. Problems that existed long before that election. So it's one thing to defeat someone, to defeat Donald Trump in 2020. It's another thing to get to the systemic problems that we face as a country. Problems that impact our ability to get health care. Problems that impact still our lack of resources going to education. Problems that impact our ability to have access to clean air and clean water. You can go down the list. Problems with infrastructure, problems with criminal justice reform. When you go down these issues that impact our everyday lives, that impact our communities, we come back to a central cause. And that is the fact that Washington for too long has not lived up to the ideals that our founders laid out for us. Of a government that is truly of, by, and for the people. For the people. Instead, what we have are self-serving politicians who are more interested in their own interests or the interests of furthering their political power, or you have greedy corporations and special interests more interested in their bottom line than they are in actually seeing, hey, how can we serve the interests of the people? So we end up with a government that is of, by, and for the rich and powerful. And we, the people, get left behind. And we see this bearing fruit in the kinds of decisions that are made, the kinds of policies that are being put forward, the kinds of conversations that are happening. What we know is that in all of this, Washington remains so disconnected from the realities that we face in our everyday lives. And this is what we need to change in this election. This is what we need to change by harnessing the power that we have in our voices, recognizing that truly we are the only ones that can overcome the seemingly insurmountable obstacles before us. And we do this by putting people ahead of profits. We do this by putting people ahead of the hyper-partisan politics that have divided our country for too long. We do this by putting the well-being of our people and our planet at the forefront of the decisions that we are making, by restoring these values of service above self to the White House, to our nation's capital, restoring that vision that our founders had for us. Now, there are a lot of issues that we face, but we know that when we do this, when we stand united with this care and love for each other and for our country, we can make sure that every sick American can get the health care that they need. We can make sure that we're making the kinds of investments in rebuilding our infrastructure, making sure that we've got clean air and clean water for every person in this country, something that should not be a great demand. We can make sure that we're investing in education, that we are paying our teachers, giving them the tools they need to set our kids up for success in the future. We can make these investments in our people when we stand united and make sure that our voices are heard, that we are electing leaders who will put service above self. And that's what I seek to do. As a soldier, I've served in the Army National Guard for 16 years. I've served with amazing Americans from all across this country, people who embody what that means. People who volunteer to put their lives on the line for this country, who understand what service before self means. And this is what we need first and foremost, to restore this principle to the White House, to restore these principles of integrity and honor and respect, so that our White House can be a beacon of light instead of the beacon of darkness and divisiveness that it unfortunately has become. Now, there's an issue that we have to deal with as we talk about very often about the investments that we need to make is the question people say, well, how are we going to pay for it? How are we going to pay for it? How are we going to afford to make sure we've got health care for all? To make sure we've got clean water for all? To make sure we've got a great education? How are we going to pay for it? Now, as a soldier, I know the cost of war. During my 2 Middle East deployments, the first I served in Iraq in 2005 in a medical unit, in a camp about 40 miles north of Baghdad. And every single day, I was confronted with that high human cost of war and how our troops pay the price. Those who never make that trip home, those who do, who are bearing scars from wounds both seen and unseen, scars that will stay with them for a very long time. We see this cost of war being paid for by the people in these countries where we wage regime change wars who end up with increased suffering and death and destruction in their countries. We see this cost of war being carried out in how our own national security is being undermined as a result. But what is often not recognized is that every single one of us pays the price. Every single one of us pays the price for these wasteful regime change wars that since 9/11 alone have cost us trillions of dollars. Trillions of our hard-earned taxpayer dollars taken out of our pockets, out of our communities, going to pay for these wasteful wars that are counter to our interests, counter to our national security, and counter to the interests of the people in these countries. That's why I'm running for president. I'm running for president to serve you as commander-in-chief, to change our policies, to end these wasteful regime change wars, to work to end this new Cold War with increasing tensions between the United States and nuclear-armed countries like Russia and China, work to end this nuclear arms race and take this peace dividend that we create as a result and invest those dollars in our people. Invest them in providing solutions to these age-old challenges and problems that only continue to get worse. This is something that we must do if we hope to make those bold investments that we need to make into our future. So that's why I'm running for president. That's why I'm asking for your support, so that we together can stand united as Americans and speak with one voice to bend this arc of history away from war and towards peace, and to build that brighter future that puts the well-being of our people at the forefront of all the decisions that we make in this country. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all that you do.